And welcome back to episode 65 of the Football Fanatic podcast. With me this week, we have Mossy is with us as always, and guest back from Elland Road and bouncing at the moment is Lenny, a good friend of the pod. Lenny, I can see you are sporting your Leeds United, your beloved Leeds United scarf in the background. You have every reason to be pleased. You're on the verge. Not fully there, but you're definitely on the verge. I was watching the game last night, Sheffield United versus Leeds, and I thought it was a fantastic game. It was a brilliant top of the table game. Mossy, were you watching it? By any chance? See
I
some of the
was, yeah.
highlights?
Yeah, it actually was an excellent game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was back and forth, and I mean, it was a proper top of the table clash. Like either team could have won it. And we'll go into more detail about that game as well. Len's going to tell us about the season that has been and his thoughts on the rest of the season. And in absence of Dan and Howard this week, we've brought Len in just to give us a little, give us his football insight as well. He might have different ideas on Man United and Liverpool and City and all of that. Arsenal as well. Yes, Arsenal put one foot in the grave at the weekend. We may as well start there actually. Arsenal were at home to West Ham, who are in 15th, 14th, 15th, and Arsenal messed up big time. Howard's not here to defend them, so we're just going to lay the boot in. I
Mhm.
don't think Arsenal are like, I mean, yeah, we said they have to win these games to catch Liverpool, etc. But I mean, I don't trust Arsenal to be honest. After kind of turn of the year, like have they been the team that they were last season? I would definitely not think so. Is it over? Is the title over? Do you think, Moss?
Yeah, I think well, you know, I suppose if
Mathematically, no, but
Slot himself said in any other league you would probably say it's over, but in the Premier League, you just don't know because of the quality. But if you're trusting Arsenal to be the main contenders and the main chasers, it's very hard to see anything changing when they lack anything up front. Their only creative outlet seems to be Odegaard, and he seems to have kind of taken a bit of a dip in form.
yeah,
And I just thought it was very telling that they needed to score a goal, and Raheem Sterling and Odegaard were set up to take the free kick, and Raheem Sterling was on to take it, a player who's
weird,
very much devoid of confidence. You
yeah,
kind of would expected Odegaard to take on the responsibility there as the club captain. Like some like look, United aren't great, but at least Bruno stood up and went for the goal that got us back into the game as captain. You appreciate
yeah,
that. Like if he misses it, he misses it. But I just think that it kind of is a bit telling that maybe there is a bit of lack of leadership up there, and there's just they've just lost their way a little bit. Like there was so much to be good things about Arsenal last year, and it just feels like this year has been a whole season of maybes and
top
complaints
start,
and
yeah,
uh, blaming referees and blaming everybody else rather than just taking a good look at their own transfer business, the way they've conducted themselves on the pitch. Maybe to a certain degree, Arteta's previous with the FA, etc., and the PGMNO. But yeah, I just don't like you. If City were in this position chasing Liverpool down, you'd have faith maybe that they could turn it into a right battle. But with
yeah,
Arsenal, it seems like the title race is done. And the interest is for and maybe relegation looks done too. So it's kind of
yeah.
looking at who's going to be top four, top five for Champions League. Seems to really where things are going to be
I, wa-
focused on
I
for the next while.
was, I was only thinking the same thing as well. Like relegation looks more or less sewn up. The gap to Wolves and Ipswich looks to be fairly big. I don't think they'll be closing down. So those three are going down. Liverpool look to have it wrapped up. The top four, top five does look to be the kind of what the likes of Sky and BT will be focusing on for the last month or two of the season, I'd say. Lenny, Arsenal, what do you think has gone wrong for them this season? Do you consider the title race over? And just general feelings on Man United and their suffering?
Well, yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
No problem,
Really,
bud.
really, really want me to go to
No,
town,
but
but
also I also when we do talk about Man United, I have a lot of credit for Man United because I do think they showed a lot of fight at the weekend. But anyways, back to Lenny.
yeah. The title race, yeah, it's over unless there's a bottling of biblical proportions or Leeds level proportions by Liverpool. Um, so I think that's all sewn up. Arsenal haven't really reeled them in at all throughout the season. They never got within striking distance, even put that much pressure on Liverpool. And I think this weekend just showed the difference in class. Arsenal at home to West Ham. You know, that's 3 points. That's a mandatory 3 points for them if they're trying to win a title.
Yeah,
And Liverpool go away to Man City, who we all know are not the same Man City as previous years, but still they put on a clinical performance at the Etihad
yeah,
and made light work of it. I think that just shows the gulf in class. Liverpool is a team of winners there. You have your Van Dijks, Salahs. We don't need to talk about them, but they've been year in year out getting the job done. Whereas, is there anyone in the Arsenal squad that you could really say like who's of that level? They have some nice, tidy players, but there's no one of that like gold standard that will win you a European Cup or Premier League. They might win you an FA Cup, they might get you third place, second place in the league, but they just don't have that there. I don't see anyone of that level where you have this like leadership, and obviously in the dugout is another thing. Arteta, I think, I don't know, was he a bit like, probably had chances in January to strengthen the squad there, and they
I
were
was
going
going
on for,
I was going to ask, like, they put in a bid for Ollie Watkins, but I mean,
yeah.
was it 40 million and Villa wanted a lot more? I mean, should they have made more of an effort, do you think, in January to get Watkins or someone else in, or did they kind of were they hoping that, like, players would be back from injury and that they'd have enough? When clearly they haven't. They absolutely don't have enough. They're playing Moreno up there, like, so.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think that, like, it was very late in the window. I don't know what they were thinking, trying to get him for 40 million. But yeah, I think regardless, I think if I was Arsenal fan, I'd be worried now because this is what their third year kind of on this bounce, and this has probably been their flattest year. And
Yeah.
teams generally go in 3 year cycles. They normally, after 3 years, they're kind of, unless there's a major upheaval, it kind of goes even more stale. I think Man City being the exception for various reasons, but I think we're already seeing a bit of a kind of plateau of Arsenal's level or hitting their ceiling,
So
and I think
on
it.
on that, just saying kind of goes in trees, like, would Arteta, I'm not saying he's under pressure, but would it be time for them to consider moving in a different direction, or would they stick with him for the foreseeable future and see what happens?
I would, if I was in the boardroom at Arsenal, I'd be looking. I think there's another level above in terms of managers that you can get. Arteta, I think reached his ceiling as well. He doesn't help himself for all the
No.
noise and everything he makes. And again, what's he achieved? He's got a few cups, you know, uh, which are obviously good days out for anyone. But
Yeah.
he's I think sees himself as this world class manager. He doesn't have a lot to show for it. He's lucky he's still in the job in the first place. I think he was blessed by COVID when they were having an awful run of it, and I think only for the fact that it was during COVID and there was no one in the grounds to abuse him and really put the pressure on him. I think he would have got the chop then. Um, so I don't know. I see Arteta like a sort of a Brendan Rodgers level manager, like good manager, does nice football, improves players to a certain degree, but just don't think he's going to win you
Yeah. Okay.
Premier League or get you there in the business end of a Champions League. Um,
Okay. No,
so
that's
yeah,
fair enough.
but
Uh,
who knows? Unless like they make some major upheaval next year, I'd be worried if I was an Arsenal fan.
all right. And of course they have PSV in the next round of the Champions League, and win that, they're on to the mighty Real Madrid, who took Man City apart last week. Mas, just a quick word on Arteta's future and what's left of the season for Arsenal. What are they hoping for? Is it just finish second, and that's it?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd say I'd necessarily agree with Len. Like Arteta's 42 and in his fifth year as a senior manager, went straight from having no managerial experience to manage a club at Arsenal who are in complete disarray, a similar situation to what United are in currently, where you had overpaid players, general like, acceptance of mediocrity, and he has reshaped and reformed it. Yes, he spent money, but anyone who's going to change a club that much is going to spend money. There's a completely different ethos, um, There's a different caliber of player there than there was when he started, and he's been instrumental in all that change. Um, and they have pushed City hard over the last 2 years, and it's very hard to win that title when you haven't been in it the last couple of years. Like you see the quality in the teams that Liverpool have had over the last 30 years, and they're going for their second league. Like, do you know, it is an extremely difficult thing to push all that way to get the belief when you haven't done it, and you're going against teams like City who've just it's ingrained in them over the last 10 years that that's what the expectation is and that's the standard. So like
Here, here.
I think the question I would have would not be with the January transfer window. It would be what was going on at the club last summer, where they decided to spend 60 million on a left back in the likes of Calafiori, with Lewis Skelly coming through, looking like he's coming through now, and maybe he's ahead of schedule. But like
Yeah.
they weren't particularly short in that area. And that 60 million spent on Ollie Watkins last summer when Villa had another player like Duran or something like that, or an alternative like Osterman or other players that they were linked with, would seem like a much more reasonable investment. And there has been issues in terms of building that squad, in terms of what they've bought attacking, and probably got more out of players like Trossard than when they arrived than probably would have been expected. But I don't think you build and recruit a team to win the league without making mistakes. City bought how much did they pay
Yeah.
on Cancelo and sold him 2 seasons later, or sent him no, like there's mistakes in that business. Like you're talking about human beings. So I wouldn't be near as negative as that. I get where you're coming from. Maybe it's getting a bit stale, but I think that would be changed in terms of your players as opposed to your manager. He seems like to establish himself as authority, um, and I would expect him to be there next season, 100%.
Okay. Um, all right, so to Arsenal, we'll move on to Liverpool. They were at City and well, I'm not going to say they destroyed us, but they played brilliantly and I suppose they were much stronger than us in key areas. They took their chances. The first goal that they got, the set piece, I thought was brilliantly worked. Um, City, I suppose, look, we're definitely kind of we're a team in transition and we've new players coming in. Players will be moved on in the summer, but I suppose regarding Liverpool, they took a huge step towards the title. Um, what's he call it? Salah is a shoe in my opinion, for Player of the Year. Um, yeah, I suppose like if they're looking at the league now, so I mean, 11 points, well, 8 points if you want to, 8 points in a game in hand for Arsenal, but they'll have to win that obviously. But say 11 points, and is a PSG in the next round of the Champions League. I mean, does that gap to second allow them to maybe not take their foot off, but just sh cast their eye elsewhere as well and concentrate on the Champions League just as much as the league because they have the gap to do so? Like, could they win the Champions League? Like, is it beyond them to get by Real Madrid? Like, who do you see advancing, and what do you think Liverpool? How do you think their approach to the Champions League will be? Len.
Yeah, you can never discount Liverpool in.
So, no, Moss, all right, Len, go ahead.
I think we're
Okay, Len, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as Liverpool have done in previous seasons, they're well capable of going full pelt at both the league and the Champions League. Um, I don't really think they'll be, resting too many players. Maybe some of the easier league games, if it's, very close to the Champions League games, they might,
But I
not
suppose,
start one or
like,
two.
given the fact that they have 11-point lead, and I mean, who they have, who they're playing tomorrow night? They're playing at home to Newcastle, and Arsenal are away to Notts Forest. So I mean, it could be 11, it could be 14 points. You never know. It could be back to 8. But I mean, it's still a significant gap that, like, would you think that they will go full tilt at the Champions League and go for it as well, as opposed to resting players? Like, can they kind of spread their team now to kind of focus on both trophies because one of them is more or less in the bag, in my opinion?
Yeah, like I don't. At the end of the day, you need to get the points on the board as soon as you can or whenever the opportunity arises. I'd be very surprised if Slot starts, making noticeable changes and really managing players, in the lead up to games like that. Unless now Arsenal really blow up in the next few weeks and the gap widens.
Yeah.
But as I said, I think they have more than enough like to just keep doing what they're doing in both. Because especially when you're playing well, you don't want to be kind of taking lads out of the game too much either and kind of ruining their momentum.
Would you-
They were in the run for the quadruple a few years ago. That didn't seem to bother them. They were what 2 wins away from it
yeah.
or something like that. So
What do you call it?
yeah, I wouldn't be.
I
Just I
don't
suppose.
know. I
So,
think they have like I think PSG aren't the PSG of old either though. Like I do think it's not as an easy draw for them.
no, it's not. I
PSG
think PSG, like they're young, they're good. They're a good team. Like fair. They don't have the
they yeah, and
flair, the flash players that they had before. But
it's a completely different setup. Like
They've
they
lots of
spent
baggage.
70 odd million in Carcelli from Napoli, and who's a superb player, and they like Brest did very well in the Champions League knocks, and they blew them away, beating them 7-0 in the end. In the second leg, like 10 something on aggregate. So like PSG is tough enough.
yeah,
They're a lot tougher draw, I suppose, than would have in previous years where you're like, oh, they have a soft kind of underbelly. I don't
yeah,
know if it's there as much under Luis Enrique, so I think it's a trickier draw maybe than anticipated. But they should like look, Liverpool should have enough, and I think Slot should be praised in relation to the way he manages load for players. Like he's like one of the best, even in the Ervis in Dutch league before he came to the Premier League. He had like one of the best availability rates of players by the way he manages their load and the style of play. Isn't as frenetic and doesn't demand, I suppose, as much of those high energy sprint runs that other styles of play do. So I think the way he manages his squad also is of a huge benefit. And he has to get credit for that because you can see how injuries at clubs have decimated their opportunities and seasons. But even Arsenal, how much they've been affected by it. So like they have the potential to it, but I don't think Champions League. I think Premier League. If you ask a Liverpool fan, if Dan was here and I said pick between the two,
of
I think
course.
it'll be Premier League. It'll be number one priority.
God, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And should they get by Paris Saint-Germain and Villa get by is it Club Bruges?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice looking quarter final for either of them. And again, like given I suppose the fact that we only saw them draw 2-2 recently, like it'd be hard to kind of say Liverpool will absolutely beat Villa in the quarterfinals, but I mean it'd be a great game to watch if it does happen. Kiss Arsenal, Liverpool, City. At the weekend, Man United were 2-0 down to Everton in the first half. I didn't see the game, but I'm being told that like the first half was very, very poor. But in the second half, it was a completely different story. And in fairness to you, I'll give you credit, he fought back and there was a contentious decision at the end. I'll get your opinion on that as well. But I suppose what was the match like? The fight back, you have to be delighted with that. Anything stand out?
Yeah, it feels like just the same old from them. To be honest, they were absolutely diabolically bad for 45 minutes. Like possibly, like was it Leeds Burnley in the early on the season? Len was 0-0. Was like being dubbed as the worst game. It
Oh
was
yeah, dire.
they just diabolically bad. The goals they conceded was like under
Yeah,
10 football.
yeah,
The goal, one person tried to head it, it bounced off this person and went here, then played him on side for Beto's first goal. Um, and then for the second goal for the Core, like Onana spills, like pushes, like, look, okay, it was a save. I believe if you're a Premier League quality goalie, you palm that over the bar, you palm
yeah.
it out of danger, and he consistently palms it back into dangerous
Yeah, he
areas.
has this habit of keeping it in play for whatever reason. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's partly I really have issues with his positional sense. Involves him being in poor positions and doesn't have that skill of preempting that you really need in a top class keeper. And then he can pull out absolute top drawer saves that
mm,
he probably shouldn't make. Um, but those ones that you consistently need from he created the Ashley Young penalty situation came again from Onana making a poor parry of a shot back into the central area. Like it shouldn't have happened. It should have been palmed out to the left. But I could go on about Onana for I don't know how long. Yeah, so it was just abysmal. Harry Maguire had an absolute stinker. You couldn't name a single player that played well in the first half, and Everton obviously are riding high. They're in great form. They looked much the better team. And to be honest, until the 17th minute, and Bruno, like they got a free kick and then got another free kick, and Bruno took the free well, and they set it up well, and that Xerxes was kind of standing in space and ducked out of the way, and Bruno executed it excellently. But up until that, they looked dead and buried. That gave them a bit of impetus. Ugarte took Gordy's first goal from a kind of a bit of a scrap, broke in the edge of the box, controlled it, and finished it well. And you're like, okay, there was a bit of belief, there was a bit of urgency, but they just still strike me as a team that can only operate well when things are chaotic. There isn't anytime they try to control a game or anything like that. It's just so boring. They just seem to lack ideas. They don't know how to break defenses down, and in chaos and counter-attacking football, which they've been trying to do. Like Ollie did it with them, then Ten Hag was doing it with them. Now Amran's doing it with them. They only seem to be able to operate effectively in counter-attacking situations, or get lucky in this case, like with breaks. But that's when they looked at their best. And then the utter stupidity of like it probably should have been a penalty. I feel like it was a little bit of luck. It was a good chunk of luck that we probably maybe over games like West Ham earlier on, where Ten Hag lost his job after, where they was atrocious penalty decision went against us. Maybe that's it balancing out over season. But if I was an Everton fan, I would have been absolutely furious. Yes, because the VAR played the wrong angle for the
Mm.
referee. Not the one where his shirt was being pulled, the one where it looked like he dived dramatically. So that was, I don't having technology and having VAR, it still obviously isn't exempt to human error, and it probably should have been a penalty to be honest. But we take a bit of luck. We needed something from that because the vibe and the ebb, it's just everything's going negatively, everything's going wrong. And I suppose the other bite spark was that Hoyland went off, and a young fella, 17, Chobi, um, Chobi Amenya, I can never get his name right, but he United bought from Arsenal. He came to the Arsenal Youth Academy. They bought him at 16. He's only 17, but he he made things happen. Um, and he was a bright spark in what was a pretty dire day all round.
Fair enough. Cheers for that, Moss. Len, your second favorite team is, of course, not Manchester United. Give us your thoughts. Just quickly sum up Amorim so far, United overall. Don't hold back.
Well, yeah, just on the game, I think I flicked it on in the second half, and they were 2-0 down, and Fernandez, the first goal they got back, I thought was a mistake from Pickford. He really should have saved that. He was his side of the goal. He was that was the keeper's side. And he was the wall on the other side, and he kind of anticipated him to hit it over the wall, and he kind of was already putting his weight on one side, and yeah, that was I say a bad mistake by Pickford. So they got a little bit of luck to get back into it. But as you said, Mossy, they only seem to thrive in the chaos. And even when they had the momentum after getting the second goal equaliser, they're still like you think, oh, Everton or Man United are on top here, but then within a blink of an eye, then Everton somehow break with the ball, and they're running 20 yards out and goal with three lads around them, like to pass it to. It just I don't understand how they get carved open like that so easy. So I think that's yeah, as you said, Mossy, the continuation of the from the Solskjaer days. Yeah, Amarin. Yeah, I don't think anyone thought it would get to this. I certainly didn't think so. I thought this fella was uh, a good recruit, but you know, I wouldn't say he's a bad manager at all. We look what he's done at Lisbon. I think it's just a reflection of the culture and the environment he's in. Yeah, and it's just a gift that keeps on giving now, with the misery being heaped obviously on the first team, and then we see all the shite with big Sir Jim. I think it was only a year since he took over there. Was it this week or last week? Everyone was
Is
6 weeks,
like
hailing
yeah.
him as the
Yeah.
Messiah.
Is that stuff like all the
Um,
cost cutting stuff? Sorry to cut across you there, Len, but just math. I don't know, you might have a better idea. Maybe you're reading more about it than rest of us are. Like, is all that cost cutting stuff actually going? Is it going on, or is it like just these funny stories online that people are posting? I like they're reading about possible jobs being made redundant, getting rid of the free lunches and stuff in the canteen. Like, I mean, is it? I don't know. Is any of that true, or is it actual? Is it going
Well,
on, or
the job losses are definitely in the
yeah?
pipeline, and there seems to be a lot of reports about the lunch situation,
Wow.
um, and the fact he's replacing it with fruit and whatnot. Uh, and I
Yeah.
love that. My favorite part is that he sent out an email threatening them to lose people to lose their jobs, etc., if they're caught to be leaking information to the press. And then that email was leaked to the press.
Right.
So, like,
Fair enough.
I don't know. Uh, he's coming from a
Of
look.
course, a business. Yeah.
You don't become a billionaire without
Yeah.
being willing to make hard decisions and cut costs. But I feel there's a lack of realization that a football club is more than a business, and you need good people in and around the club and the community
Yeah.
with kind of spirit and a positive atmosphere. And to be fair, if people are losing their jobs who've been at the club for 30 odd years, they won't cover the cost of the FA Cup final. They won't
Yeah.
cover their lunches anymore. And fair enough, I have to buy my own lunch. Maybe they should too, just because they work for United. But like, it does create it's inevitably going to create a negative atmosphere.
Of course.
No one's going to want like actively be looking to go to work in an environment like that. Um, and it's very hard to take that kind of, oh, we're saving money by cutting your lunch, but we spent 10 odd million buying getting Dan Ashworth in to get rid of him 5 months later, or
Yeah.
spend
Yeah.
40 million getting rid of a man you gave a contract to in the summer to get rid of Ten Hag. And so that's the thing that really is biting them in the ass. And then you're playing absolutely stink football, the worst of all time, and you want to raise the ticket prices.
Yeah.
So like it's the combination of those things just creating such a cesspool of negativity that you need the football and the pitch to be going well to distract people. And because that's going so
Absolutely.
bad, it's just creating this like unstoppable monster that doesn't seem like it's going to go well anytime soon.
Like yeah, chances are
The,
that I mean, sorry, Lan, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, just the one thing I wanted to say was like if this was a few years ago when they were in this situation and the bottom lower teams, especially the promoted teams, which are all in the relegation zone are done and dusted, really. If this was a normal season, like Man United could be really in bother
Of course.
relegation wise. Have they what are they on? Are they on 30 points or 29 points?
30 points,
Uh,
yeah.
you know, back in the day it was like the magic 40 was and they're like would you see them getting 40 points by the end of the season? Like it's it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that they just scrape 40. And you know, a few seasons where that's happened, someone's gone down on 39 or 40 points.
I
So
do
they can count themselves there.
yeah.
And
No, that's a fair point.
like if it did happen, it wouldn't be the worst thing to happen to the club, relegation,
It would,
because
Len.
you'd
It would
really
be
see you'd
absolutely fucked.
no, you'd see who really wants to be involved there, because all the shite there on 300 grand a week, they'll be gone like a shot. Um, and you'd really see then, whoever wants to be there for the rebuild will be there.
Oh yeah, no,
Big
hold
Jim
on.
is just
That's a fair
go on.
point. Absolutely, you make a very, very valid point. You'll see who wants to be there, etc. But I was listening just before the episode. I was listening to different interviews about managers throwing players under the bus, and it was Harry Redknapp talking about Sean Wright Phillips years ago at QPR, and he was saying like he wanted Sean Wright Phillips to go. Like he wasn't in his plans, fair enough. But Sean Wright Phillips didn't want to go, but he was on because he was on such a good salary. And I mean, if United were to be relegated and brought down into the Championship, I mean would the players leave if they're on such fantastic, wages? I mean, would they genuinely want to leave? Is football at that stage now where like if you're on a great contract and a big comes in for you like that offers you less, there's players think about it now as opposed to maybe years ago. That whole disconnect is getting bigger. I think we spoke about it last week where like money has absolutely taken over, whereas opposed to wanting to win things and playing for like teams that are kind of fighting for titles, like it's not as important anymore. So I mean, I take your point, Len, but there's
I think
also
that's a deck though. That's like a very highfalutin or nostalgic way of looking at it. if I was to go, right, Deck, here's your job offer for company A that's going to get you 100 grand. But if you go to company B, you're going to get 120 grand.
Hmm.
You're going to go to company B every day of the week.
Yeah.
So, like, I think there's a certain element of fan nostalgia, but of going, oh, well, they should want to come to our club or whatever. But if you're from a completely different part of the world and don't have an emotional connection to a club,
Fair point.
uh, like you're going to look at the figures and the perks, and that's going to be your deciding factor. And I think sometimes people are like, "Oh, it's so much money that it doesn't matter." But like, you see cases like Oscar who went to
Yeah.
China years ago, and when questioned about why he did it, he's like, "I'm supporting all these people at home, and I need to make as much money as possible to keep
Yeah.
them going and look after them." So like, I think it's very fair enough to say, "Yeah, look, the money you're talking about was stupid money, and they're going to be very wealthy anyway." But I do think people look at it and don't put themselves in that situation. And if you were in that situation and you were like, well, I can earn 120 grand here a week, or I can go play football somewhere else and earn 60 grand, you're probably going to stay and
Hmm.
earn 120 grand. Like, I think United fans are like, oh, he doesn't want to play for the club. But like, United gave him the contract. That's United's fault. That's not the
Yeah.
player's fault.
Fair
There
point.
you go. Yeah. Well,
Um,
I
what's you
said it
call it?
before.
Go ahead, Lan.
Sorry. Yeah. I was just. I think I was on here a few months ago on about when Ten Hag was in charge that they should really be going down to Atleti and getting your man Simeone, and I still stand by that.
Yeah,
But
he'd sort
I
them out
somehow
fairly lively.
I somehow think come the summer, Big Jim will be ringing his old buddy Sir Gareth, or someone of that ilk. It could be another yes man, uh, and yeah, long may it continue.
Well, if Gareth comes, you may as well get ready first in the championship because we're going down.
Fair enough. All right, Len, you kind of touched on clubs kind of stuff outside the off the pitch stuff kind of affecting on the pitch. And I don't think over the last few years there was a better example of that than Leeds United many years ago
Yeah,
when Peter Ridsdale was over them and David O'Leary was in charge, and then God knows how many managers they went through, and all the off the field stuff affected the on the field stuff, and they found themselves down in the championship. Despite being a huge club, despite being in the last four of the Champions League, only a couple of seasons later, they were down in the championship. And since then, they have been down in League One, they have been back to the Premier League and down to the championship again. But they do look on the verge. They're not there yet, but they definitely look on the verge. Lenny, what's it like being a Leeds United fan this season? Is it are you enjoying it? Are you kind of nervy about the next few weeks? What's it like?
yeah, I've been enjoying it now since probably the turn of the year, when kind of the league has kind of settled itself out, and you could see there was really only four protagonists for the automatic spots, and I think now it's a three horse race really. Was at Ellen Road there last week for the Sunderland game, and yeah, what a game to go to. Um, yeah, like Sunderland are a very decent side,
Yeah.
a very good, very they're a serious club as well, serious support.
Just
It was a good occasion there.
quickly off topic on Sunderland, Bellingham, just Job Bellingham. Like, is
Yeah,
he? I've only heard about him. I haven't watched any of his games. Like, is he as good as Jude? Is he going to be as good as Jude? Will he stay at Sunderland
no,
or no?
no, he's not as good as Jude. Sure,
No.
Jude was getting plucked off to Dortmund when he was 16.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
Joby, he's a decent championship player. Um, I mean, he doesn't stand out a whole lot.
okay.
Like he's definitely one of Sunderland's main players.
Okay.
Uh,
I was just
this was
curious. I was just curious.
yeah, yeah. But
He's still only
he's
19 though. Like,
Yeah.
he is only
yeah.
19.
Anyways,
So
Len, go ahead with Leeds.
yeah, so yeah, got the win last week, which was great, and then yeah, I really was believing that we could do it, and then obviously all eyes on last night, and what a game that was.
Absolutely great game, back
Uh,
and forth. I was saying just before
Sheffield,
we came, yeah,
Sheffield,
I was just saying that like it was a proper top of the table clash.
yeah, like we could have been Leeds could have been 3-0 down, inside half an hour. They were very shaky at the start, though I think that was more to do with Sheffield United going out all hell for leather. Kind of same as the Sunderland game. They kind of dominated at the early stages, but I think Leeds, that team, are just in great physical condition, and then they just have this bench to bring on. Where I wouldn't even say it's like a mental thing where they just have the guile to squeeze games out. They just have the physical capability of keeping their intensity playing for 90 minutes. You know, they bring on four subs who are probably starters in any other championship team, and they just keep the pressure on. So I
When
was
you
once we got the equaliser yesterday, I was
just when you
really
kind
thinking, yeah, we'll win this.
when you say about kind of like high intensity, they have the players, etc. I mean, you could argue that Marcelo Bielsa also had them playing a high intensity game, and that's the reason they came up to the Premier League. So I mean, is it going to be like kind of the same story as in, are they coming? Are they going to be in the Premier League, presuming they do get up, which they likely will? Are they coming up with the same type of team where it's like it's high intensity, a lot of pressing? Is that the type of team they are now?
Yeah, they're not. They were nowhere near as high intensity as Bielsa's team,
Okay.
which was when under Bielsa that was our greatest strength, but sometimes our greatest weakness.
Yeah.
Fark is more measured the way he plays, and it's been actually some of the criticisms during the season that it's been actually a bit boring, where it's not all out attack all the time, and it's often holding on to possession and controlling games. And it's only in probably the last swing of games in the last 2 months where they've kind of really been playing with a bit more freedom. I think probably as the season progresses, players are tired. You know, they had a few big wins, 7-0 there home to Cardiff. Uh, and just, yeah, it was a 15 games now unbeaten, and you can kind of see the fruits of the labour with the way Farka has you know, usually starts games quite conservatively, but just has a great rotation of players as well, and we're defending quite good as well. I think we're not quite as Burnley level of conceding. I think they've only 9 goals conceded, but I think we've a pretty good defensive record as well. I think probably second best defensive record in the league.
But I saw
So
what I
yeah, I
saw,
like
Lenny, was what do you call it? You have a 50 plus goal difference, whereas
yeah.
Sheffield United are like the next, and they have like 20 odd. So I mean, who are the standout players that like are getting these goals? I know Dan James, like I recognize a few of the names, like I keep an eye on it, but I mean,
Yeah,
do you have any kind of outstanding goal scorers, like players that might be poached during the summer, stuff like that?
so it's not like last year where they had Somerville who was, I think, up on near 30 goals. It's like everyone's chipping in. Everyone's on like 10 plus goals kind of in the front
Right.
four or that. I think Joe Perot is on 15.
Okay.
He's the highest. And like it's funny because he's a player who kind of blows hot and cold where sometimes he doesn't get in the game at all. Even last night, he didn't really get into the game until maybe into the second half. And then he kind of had the ball and some freedom to play and looked very dangerous. So it's it reminds me a bit of kind of Man City before Haaland, where there was kind of there was no big main man like the way Haaland is there now, or Aguero kind of. It was kind of everyone really kind of is dangerous in the front four, and if they're given any bit of space, they'll get you a goal. So yeah, to be this at this point in the season and leading the title charge. It's definitely new, and yeah, so I think only team that can stop us now is Leeds. Um, and yeah, we've been there before, but I think it
Yes,
feels
yes,
a
you
bit
have.
Yeah, I was
different.
about to say, of
Yes,
all
you
teams,
have
you've
been
done it
there
a few
before.
times to yourselves. Like,
It does
Yeah,
seem different though. It does definitely seem to have more of a control on the team, more of a control of the league this time around. Last
can I
season, yeah, you go
can I
ahead,
just
Moss.
ask Len there, Deck, how, like, I suppose when you looked at the start of summer or the end of the summer, sorry, and you'd sold Somerville and Rooter and very important players like that, were you questioning ownership
yeah,
decision, or
actually
did you
great.
think that they, like, are you seeing now that they did have a bigger picture in mind? Like the 49ers, are 49ers part of the
Uh,
investment group?
Oh yeah,
49ers, and then you have Red Bull bought in as well. But yeah, there was an acceptance with Somerville going, and then Gray was the next to go, and there was an acceptance because they were still under this pressure for the FFP,
All right.
paying for the sins of when they first got promoted. Because when they first got promoted, they went out and spent a lot of money, and a lot of those players they bought were shite. And so they couldn't even sell them on for get their money back. They all took big losses on them. But the last one then was Rutter, which was when the season had already started. That one kind of hurt a lot of fans because the club had kind of said that we don't need to sell anyone now financially, we're in a solid position. But again, the money they got for them, and then we look at the recruitment this summer in the summer window. It's been very, very good. You have that Ao Tanaka in centre midfield, Japanese international, got one from Dusseldorf for like 2.5 million or 3 million, like a real bargain. Uh, then got Jaden Bogle from Sheffield United again, 5 million or so. He's been one of our standout players right back. Um, who else did we sign? Got Manor Solomon on loan from Spurs. He's doing really well. So they've actually
Len,
been very good in terms of the transfers this season.
come here. Len, tell me about this goalkeeper. Okay, because I don't know. I mean, is he brilliant or is he? He's not useless, but is he good or is he like, does he have mistakes in him? Because
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen him. I've seen highlights throughout the season of him pulling off absolute worldly saves, but I know that he has some sort of a history in terms of making some shocking mistakes as well. And I suppose last night we seen both sides of him. So Melia, is it?
yeah, Melier. Yeah, so there's a lot of noise around Melier. I think for a keeper in the championship, he's as good as you can get, really. Not maybe there's some outstanding keepers. Your man Trafford for
Trafford,
Burnley
yeah,
now
he's very
has
good.
been
Huh?
brilliant. Yeah, but like I see a lot of other keepers in the division, and they're nowhere near as good as Melier.
Yeah,
He's been more than I think worth his fee. They signed him about 5 years ago for 5 million. He's only like 18, 19.
all
And
right.
he got slotted into the first team straight away because we had that ex-Madrid fella, Kiko Casilla, who got a big ban for racism. And then he was basically out for the rest of the season and or for about 10 games. But then Melior kept his place. And that was the year we got promoted. He was brilliant that year. When promoted first year in the Premier League, he was brilliant that year as well. And then obviously the next two seasons, not as good, but that's when the whole team started, not performing as well. And he was shipping goals left, right, and centre. The defence was just getting carved open those last 2 years in the Premier League. Last year, to be honest, I can't really remember anything other than he made one brilliant save against Leicester away to get the win for us. He didn't really have many howlers or that. And then this year, yeah, he's had a couple of bad ones. The one against Sunderland, remember the last kick of the game in the
Yeah.
Stadium of Light, and then he had one against Hull again, the last kick of the game just at the start of January, where he kind of parried the ball out instead of tipping it over the bar. Um, any keeper, even in the Premier League level, like Allison, who's probably the best in the world, one of the best, he still has one in him a season.
Mm,
Um,
true.
so I don't know. He's obviously not as assured under, say, crosses and stuff as maybe you'd like. That's probably one part where he's weak. But Leeds as a team have never been great at set pieces in terms of defending or attacking them. We just don't have the aerial power, so that probably plays into it. Um, a lot of fans are going ape about getting rid of him there during the season, and in January they were like, "Oh, why don't we sign a keeper?" Like I didn't see the need to. Um, regardless if we go up, would you want a new keeper? I think you'd want to sign someone, and at least there'd be a competition there. That's one thing I think he hasn't really had any competition in the last 5 years, so that could be a factor.
Well,
Um, so yeah, if we're getting back in the Premier League, you probably want to get someone who's proven at that level, and whether he loses a place or not, at least there's competition there.
yeah.
But like as you said, our goal difference is plus 50. We're 5 points clear in first place. So yeah, I think it's more noise than what actually happens on the pitch. People
Okay.
just get a bit excited about it. So I'm relatively happy with him. Like he's not the best keeper we've ever had,
Well,
but he's no Nigel Martin. But he'll do for now.
Nigel Martin. Wow. There's a fucking
Yeah.
memory book, isn't there? Who else? Neil Sullivan, wasn't he
Yeah.
there?
Neil Sullivan was there with Paul Robinson.
Oh yeah, Paul
Paul
Robinson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robinson. That
yeah.
was a man who
Scored.
was prone to an error.
What do you call it, Len? On
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of summer additions, quick question: would you take Calvin Phillips back?
I'll give it to you for free.
Is he out of contract? Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I'll be honest. Like, it's kind of a lot of
I
people have
think he is.
forgot he's there. I don't. He's at Ipswich on loan, and I mean that has not gone well from West Ham on loan didn't go well from. I mean, I feel sorry for the lad because he is a very good
Oh, big
footballer.
time.
And I mean, it just didn't work out. Pep did not give him the minutes, went out on loan. It didn't hasn't worked out, and he just comes across as like a confidence player. Like if he's given minutes and given a consistent run of games,
Yeah.
like there is an absolute very, very good player there. And you've seen it at Leeds, like you've seen it when they were up. He was brilliant in that position, but for look, Guardiola didn't play him, didn't give him a chance. He wasn't going to put Rodri out of the team, and it just hasn't worked. So I'd imagine
But
I'd imagine he'll be one of a few that will be leaving City in the summer, and I'd love to see him go back to Leeds because I think like
yeah,
Leeds fans love him. Like,
I would as well personally, but I don't know how if he'd get a place in the team. He'd really have to
yeah,
excel. But you look at a lot of that Bielsa team, like look at them now. Uh, Bar Rafinha,
Rafinha.
who was a gem of a signing and has gone on to brilliant things. Like he's probably one of the best players in the world at the moment on form. Like the rest of them have all, they just that Bielsa like really turned, never mind water into wine, he turned shite into wine. Uh, like a lot of them were probably at the kind of point of their careers where they're at their peak
yeah,
potential in terms of age. But like Phillips is definitely, he's not even 30, he should definitely not have kind of fallen off like that. Uh,
absolutely.
then you don't like really have anyone else tearing it up. Who's left in Premier League? Jack Harrison there with Everton, not doing a
Yeah,
whole lot.
yeah.
Then most of them are either gone abroad or in the championship still. So it really, and as good a player Phillips was, just that all those players playing under Bielsa were really playing out of their skin from,
Yeah.
and yeah, no one else seems to be able to recreate it.
Okay. Quick question. We'll end it on this one, okay? Bielsa or Farke, if you had to pick one manager, because I know you do have
Uh,
you have a
well,
you have a love for Marcelo.
I don't like if you asked anyone that they'd say Bielsa because just the way that he captured the whole fan base at the time,
Yeah.
like uh, obviously really really like Farke. I think he's like he is a top manager. Like this would be his third promotion in the championship. Um, but it's as much as I'm enjoying it, it's nowhere near as intense as the 2020 season because obviously there was that 16-year gap, and they've been in the mire for years. So Bielsa was just like this messiah. So it is very different, and the football Bielsa played, like while it was unbelievable to watch, it was also sometimes the
Mm,
root of all our problems. But it was still just this. It was like nothing ever before seen.
very
Whereas
good.
Farke is, his football plays decent football, but he's not like this, left of field fella coming in, doing everything like you've never seen. So yeah, sentimentally, I'd always be a Bielsa man, and I'm always throwing an eye on Uruguay these days. And even you see some of the highlights of the goals, and they just remind you of the goals they were scoring under him. It's that style of football. Like it's so unique, and it's you don't really see it anywhere else.
Definitely. Very interesting manager. If you ever get to read a book about him, it's fantastic. Okay,
Oh yeah,
that was Leeds United. So Dan is not with us this week to give an update on fantasy football, but I'll give a quick kind of summary of what happened over the weekend. And of course, there's midweek fixtures, so it will likely change as well. Porrick Clark with escape from victory is in the lead, and Dan is 7 points behind him. He moved back up into second. His brother Alex is stayed in fourth, so I mean it's getting fairly tight between first and sixth. There's 40 points, which is nothing. So again, the winner of the fantasy football will get to choose a club jersey of their choice. But again, there's still 2 months to go. But what do you call it? A lot of people actually making moves up the table. Some of the names that he's fecking, some of the names drop it like a slot. That's very good. um, who in the palm of your hand? I like that one. Arnie Slots. I'm sorry, Nick Jackson. Beirut win again. Jimmy Floyd Bottlebank. That's Dan's brother's name. And then Escape from Victory. Great film if you ever have the time to watch it. On to our Super Six for this week. Of course, there are midweek fixtures. So, Richard Coulter, they're fucking dominating the fucking things.
Yeah, we
Uh,
need to get rid of the
a
coaches.
100%. Just kill them off. Like, get rid of them. They're not allowed back in not allowed back in fantasy football or Super Six next season. But he is still leading, and he's been there for quite a long time. He has a 10-point lead over lad in second, Darren Mitchell. Um, Dan himself is in sixth, and Moss, I see you were in 10th. But again, between first and 10th, Moss is like what 38 points, which could be one correct result, and you could like swap that around. So I mean, you're doing all right, keeping it. You're doing
Just
well.
about hanging.
No, you're doing
I
well.
had two bad weeks now in fantasy football or in Super Six. Yeah, just likes of Arsenal losing the four
Yeah, of
nils, the
course.
4-1s. It just wasn't a good week for it. But look, it is what it is.
Keep going, absolutely. What do you call it? Super Six this week. So we have Spurs versus Man City, United and Ipswich, Liverpool and Newcastle, Palace and Villa, Chelsea and Southampton, and then finally Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. So Len, we're going to get your predictions first. Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. What do you think?
Uh, I'm going to go for a 1-0 Arsenal.
Okay, interesting. It would definitely make it interesting if Liverpool didn't get by Newcastle and Arsenal did get by Nottingham Forest. I mean, I think they have one hand on the title, but I mean, at least they'll keep them honest. Okay, 1-0 Arsenal. Chelsea and Southampton, Moss.
Chelsea have had an awful run of fixtures,
Very
so
much, yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that they're going to do to Southampton what everyone else has done to Southampton and beat them convincingly about a 3-0 win because I think they need it. I think uh, Marco, what's his name?
Maresca,
Maresca needs it.
big time.
Maresca really needs
So
it.
Maresca, yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons being made between his Leicester side last year being 15
Yeah.
points ahead and the drop off. So yeah, Liverpool or Chelsea need to find a way back to winning ways if they're going to compete for the Champions League. So maybe this will be the time, and it'll just
Uh,
maybe pay to have Cole Palmer in your fantasy football.
we'll see. All right, Palace and Villa. I'll go with this one. I'll go
Tough
for a
one to
one
call.
all. Yeah, it is a tough one to call. Villa away, especially. I'm gonna go for a 1-all with that one. Um, Villa will have an eye on the Champions League coming up in 2 weeks' time. Okay, Len, what one? Liverpool and Newcastle.
I will go Desmond 2-all.
That's
Uh,
1-2.
it's that fixture always throws up big score lines there, and especially a midweek game.
Yeah,
So that'll be a
some
big score.
some great games actually. 4-3s, 2 4-3 games up a year, many years ago. All right, cheers for that, Len. Moss, Man United versus Ipswich. Your first versus your second favorite team. What's going to
Yeah,
happen here?
uh, I'm going to say a 2-1 win, but God only knows it could be we could lose. Ipswich could be reading us in. I honestly don't know. I gone 2-1 to United, but I have no faith in that whatsoever.
Fair
Sure,
enough.
they'll get a soup and a sandwich on the bus home anyway.
Exactly, and
No, they won't. They'll just get some fruit.
Jim will be there handing out apples afterwards.
So gone off
Okay.
banana there, reduced
Uh,
clear.
very good. Spurs and Man City. So I don't know. I just have a feeling that we're going to get a result here.
And
Yeah,
they
I'm gonna
have been
go.
traditionally your bogey team, like
Yeah, I know. For a long
They
time they
are,
have. I do have a feeling, for whatever reason, I think City are going to win this one 2-1. Um, Abby Koosh. When you see him over the weekend, Len, I don't know. Do you know who Abby Koosh is?
Kushinov.
no.
Kusanov. He's
Oh, the centre half, yeah.
Yeah.
Uzbekistan. He had an absolute
Yeah, he's
nightmare of a
decent.
debut. Yeah, he is. He is. He had a
Yeah, I like him.
nightmare against Chelsea, but
Yeah.
since then, like he's been kind of playing a fullback and centre half, and I mean, he was one of the few highlights for us against Liverpool at the weekend. He's only 20, but he's strong, he's quick, and he just definitely looks a player to keep an eye on. He just looks like he's just like looks like a gem of a player.
Can I just
But
say, Dex, that I'd say he
yeah,
was just so relieved. Like, I don't, Guardiola should, like, he played him against, out of position against Vinicius Jr.
yeah.
Or Mbappe. And I was like, his agent sort of negotiated some sort of clause into his contract that should not have been allowed. Like, it was criminal to do to a 20-year
I
old.
I
And
know
I
it
think,
was when I saw the team sheet. I agree. Like I was saying, what the hell are you doing? Like surely someone else, like I mean, to throw them in. Like was that his first Champions League game? It was actually his first Champions League game, and he threw him in and he held his own. He didn't keep Vinicius Junior like fully quiet or anything like that, but he definitely held his own. And I think he grew a little bit in confidence from it because I mean the start debut against Chelsea was a disaster. But again, 20 years of age, thrown into the kind of deep end, and maybe it was a very kind of shrewd move from Pep because I mean, so far since
baptism
that
of
game,
fire,
like
maybe, yeah.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's still far too early to tell, but we'll see. Abby Kush and Omar and Nico and the gang, you know what I mean? Going to bring us on to, and who else knows over the
Mhm.
summer? Hopefully, we'll a few out and a few in. There's different names being thrown around. Well, if I'm hearing correctly, Grealish is gone. De Bruyne could be gone. Gundogan is gone. John Stones could be gone. I heard John Stones could be retiring because his injury was supposedly that bad. Now that could be, I don't know, but and again, that could be just paper talk, as Dan calls it, the rags. Um, what they call it? That kind of sums it up for this week, man.
Sums it up,
Next
yeah.
week we will definitely have Dan back. We don't know about Howard. Len, thank you very much for coming on, and we will definitely come back to you before the end of the season.
Having me.
What do you call it? Leeds. Hopefully, for your sake, they don't do what they've done in previous
Don't do a
seasons, and
Leeds.
don't do a Leeds. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
usually it's around Easter, so
Yeah.
keep a close eye because they play Good Friday and Easter Monday, and that's usually when things kind of settle themselves
Shit.
out. So
Shit
yeah,
hits the
get
fan.
back to
They've
me
There's
after
no
Easter
rising
and we'll
from the
see how
dead,
we're
no.
doing.
34 games played. How many games
Sorry,
left?
12.
12 games. It's an awful lot of games, isn't it? 40,
Oh,
46
it's a slog.
games. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right. So 7 points clear of third. Would you take, does it matter to you first or second?
If it was up to me now, yeah, I'd say give it a second. But part of me really wants us to win the title because we won it in 2020, but sure, didn't get to celebrate it like you normally would with the COVID and all that shite. So I wouldn't mind seeing a trophy lift in Ellen Road in person.
When is the last time?
Uh,
Long.
1992.
1992. Eric Cantona, was it? No.
Yeah, it would have been
That
then
can't, that
the
Cantona's
last league
time.
title of
Wow. That's a long
yeah,
time ago. All right.
David Batty and the boys.
David Batty. Jesus Christ. He had some good players over the years.
Oh yeah,
Honest to God. Remember that team that David O'Leary had, and then the kind of who were Rio Ferdinand, Mark Viduka, Alan Smith, Robbie Fowler. Jesus Christ, he had some players. Ridsdale was
yeah.
fucking buying with money that he didn't fucking have. Like,
All on the credit union.
honest to God, yeah. Very good. All right, man. Listen, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, as always, and thank you to all who are listening and watching. Please continue to do so, and we will see and chat to you next week. All right. Thanks very much, lads.
Look, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.